Unveiling the Truth, Life After Jesus. Shocking insights you've never heard before. In a dusty corner of an ancient stone church, a hidden tome waited, untouched for centuries. This wasn't just any old book, it was said to hold the secrets of what happened after the resurrection, the truths that could rewrite history as we know it. The air pulsed with an electricity, the kind that makes your skin tingle. Whispers echoed in the shadows, a symphony of secrets just out of reach. It felt like the whole world held its breath, teetering on a precipice. People flocked to see the unveiling, their faces pale with anticipation. A scholar stepped forward, clutching the mysterious text like a holy relic. His voice trembled as he began to read, and each word hung in the air like a living thing. "What if Jesus didn't die?" he asked, and some gasped. The room vibrated with shock, the murmurs building until they roared like a storm. What if he lived on to lead a different life, hidden from history? Each sentence unleashed a wave of awe and dread. Tales of miracles lived on, stories unheard and unshared. Could they be true? The crowd leaned in, forming a shaky circle of eager faces, their eyes wide with both fear and fascination. The flickering candlelight danced, casting long shadows, blurring the lines between past and present. Who held the truth? What would it mean if these claims were factual? In the midst of the tension, the scholar paused. He could see their breaths hitching, the tightness in their chests. They were hanging on every syllable like it was their last. He glanced at a fragile parchment, blue veins creeping across the ancient script, as if the very ink spoke of lives long gone yet oddly familiar. The atmosphere crackled, charged with something inexplicable. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." He looked out at the anxious crowd one last time, their faces flickering between skepticism and hope. What was the next revelation waiting to burst forth from the pages? Would they be ready for the truth that could shatter their world? The answers loomed, thick as smoke, refusing to settle, and that's when he noticed an inscription on the last page, a date that sent a chill down his spine, a date that would change everything. But what did it mean? And who were the figures referenced in the margins? The fire of intrigue burned hotter than ever, leaving questions swirling like the dust motes in the dim light. What awaited them next in this unfolding saga? The scholar's gaze dropped back to the page, his heart racing. The date was etched in an ancient style, strikingly clear, 34 AD. It felt wrong. He'd always believed the narrative, the established timelines that connected dots in a neatly packaged story. But here it was, a raw mark from another time, casting shadows over all he thought he knew. What's written there? A voice pierced the heavy silence. It was an elderly woman near the front, her eyes bright and inquisitive. The crowd fell still, each person straining to hear the answer. The scholar cleared his throat, trying to temper the rush of adrenaline. It's a date, but it's not one commonly associated with the resurrection. It suggests events far beyond what we've recorded in history. Gasps flitted through the audience like wildfire. The atmosphere crackled with energy, and people whispered among themselves, their voices mingling with disbelief. The weight of curiosity hung thick in the air as they pictured all the possibilities. Could it be a turning point in his life? Someone asked, voice trembling. Didn't he ascend? Wasn't he at the end of his journey? The scholar let the question hang a moment longer before responding, his voice steady but filled with urgency. What if this was just the beginning of something much larger? What if Jesus, far from the divine ascension we've been taught, ventured into the world, continuing to change lives, influencing history without our knowledge? A murmur ran through the crowd. Faces were flushed with a mix of fear and hope, like children hearing a scary story before bed. Could their beliefs be built on sand? The scholar raised his hands to call for quiet. But look closer. He pointed to the marginal notes, hidden details only visible in the flickering light. These figures, who are they? They seem to suggest a network of followers, even hidden societies. Unease rippled through the attendees. The air felt dense with unresolved questions, tightening around their throats. What if there were others, modern-day guardians of this truth? Suddenly, a loud crash sounded outside. The rumble of chaos echoed, shaking the very foundations of the church. The crowd jumped, turning toward the doors. Shadows began to writhe, an ill omen backed by the fiery glare of an approaching storm, lightning flickering ominously in the distance. What was that? A young man yelled. "Stay calm," the scholar urged, his voice rising above the panic. But the tension was palpable, and whispers of panic filled the room. The flickering candles sputtered, and for a moment, the world outside felt like it was washing over them like a relentless tide, threatening to engulf them. Then, like a scene out of a nightmare, the heavy wooden doors burst open, and a figure appeared, silhouetted against the darkening sky. Rain pelted the stones outside, the wind howling like a wounded animal. The stranger took a step forward, cloaked in shadows, an aura of authority and danger clinging to him like mist. "I've come for the book." His voice boomed, reverberating through the chamber, echoing off the walls. The atmosphere changed. Fear turned tangible, wrapping its cold fingers around their hearts. They realized they were no longer safe. The very truths they longed to uncover now brought with them a threat beyond comprehension. The scholar felt the hairs on his arms stand up, every instinct screaming at him to protect what they had just unearthed. "Who are you?" he demanded, swallowing hard, but the stranger's cold smile revealed nothing. The flickering light threw shadows across his face, twisting reality into an unsettling mask. Someone who knows what this means. What secrets had awakened? What danger lurked behind the pages of history? As the storm raged outside, they were left to wonder, would they choose to confront the truth, no matter the cost? And then the lights flickered, dimming sharply. His heart thudded heavily in his chest as the darkness crept in, swallowing the flickering candlelight. The scholar stood, paralyzed, caught between fear and a burning desire to understand. The stranger took another step forward, revealing a face etched with lines, each one telling a story that had likely remained buried for centuries. "Who sent you?" the scholar managed to ask, his voice tremulous but edged with authority. The crowd shifted, breaths caught in throats, eyes wide with trepidation. Enough with the questions, the stranger shot back, a glint of something dangerous sparking in his gaze. "You have no idea the forces at play here." He raised a hand, revealing a glimmer of something metallic between his fingers, a sigil marked with the same design as the one on the scroll the scholar had just uncovered. Panic rushed through the audience, a collective gasp echoing against the stone walls. The crowd instinctively stepped back, their thoughts tangled in shock. What did that symbol mean? What history lay entwined with this man's presence? "Get out!" someone shouted, adrenaline igniting chaos in the room. Chairs scraped against the floor, feet shuffled nervously. The scholar raised his hand again to restore order, the urgency bubbling within him now a raging fire. "Wait! Please!" he called out, desperation lacing his words. "We need to hear him." "Do you?" the stranger sneered, casting a glance over the crowd. "Or would you rather stay blind and perish in your ignorance?" Heavy thunder rolled outside, a savage rumble that shook the very bones of the church. The lights sputtered once more, briefly illuminating the masked fear on every face, flickering like the flames they held. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil of their minds. "What do you know about the book?" the scholar asked, trying to cut through the distrust emanating from his audience. "Everything," the stranger replied, stepping forward, the light revealing his hooded cloak. "Everything you think you understand about the past and the dangers it poses to the present." Whispers of disbelief danced through the congregation, but the scholar leaned closer, intrigued, feeling the air crackle with the weight of truth and treachery. Then tell us. What does it reveal? The stranger's eyes glinted dangerously. It speaks of a world where the line between divine and human is blurred. Where even the highest of beliefs can lead to corruption, but you wouldn't accept that. A deafening roar lightning struck nearby, illuminating the man's face in a flash of stark clarity. In that instant, the scholar recognized the depth of his conviction, a mirror of his own, and felt the urgent need to know more. This was it. This was the moment they had all come for. Listen to me. The scholar shouted above the growing tempest. If there are hidden truths, we need to bring them to light. We can't shrink away from our fears. The stranger tilted his head, a satisfied smirk spreading across his face. You seek the truth, yet cannot comprehend its full weight. But alas, you'll soon understand what it truly costs. In a swift motion, he opened a pocket of his cloak and tossed something into the air. The crowd gasped and recoiled as the object spun through the air, catching the candlelight an artifact, ancient and ornate, inscribed with the same markings as the scroll. A deafening boom resonated just as it hit the ground, unleashing a blinding flash that swallowed the room in light, then darkness. Screams erupted, panic consumed the air, and the scholar felt himself being pulled into the chaos, his world spinning out of control. What have you done? He yelled, but his voice drowned in the cacophony. The moment stretched, a heartbeat fracturing time itself, and then everything plunged into silence to the ear-splitting sound of his own heart racing. As the darkness settled, he forced himself to breathe, fear radiating through him. What lay before them now? What new truth had been unleashed, and what sacrifices would they have to pay to grasp it? And in that moment of uncertainty, a low whisper seemed to drift around the room, chilling him to his core, a powerful warning yet unspoken. You are not ready. What lay beyond that veil of darkness? Would they emerge enlightened, or buried under newfound revelations? The danger was only beginning. The air turned electric, almost suffocating, as silence enveloped the room. Every soul held their breath, eyes darting in the murky shadows. Was the stranger's artifact a key to their salvation or a harbinger of doom? The echo of the thunder outside seemed to wane, leaving only the frantic rhythm of hearts pounding in unison. At that moment, the scholar's thoughts raced. He could feel the weight of stare down, the collective gaze burdening him with expectation and dread. Is anyone hurt? He called out, voice strained, fighting to cut through the apprehension engulfing the crowd. A few murmurs stirred but quickly hushed. They were rooted in place, minds locked in confusion. His fellow scholars had become statues, frozen in fright and intrigue. Then, as if responding to an unseen cue, flickering lights returned, revealing the face of the stranger, illuminated in shades of gray and shadows. But the clarity held an unsettling twist. The man was gone. Where he had stood moments before, a swirling mist wafted like smoke, seeping into cracks of the aged stone walls. Where is he? Someone shouted, panic lacing their voice, provoking a rush of adrenaline among the crowd. The scholar felt the icy tendrils of fear inch into his own chest. What had they unleashed? There was a sudden shift, a whispering presence that echoed against their walls, only it didn't come from the crowd. It resonated, ghostly and chilling, wrapping around them like a shroud, borrowing secrets from the past to taunt the living. The truth shall only be seen, not simply heard. The ground beneath their feet vibrated in response, a soft tremor followed by a long, low growl that set every nerve on edge. Where once the silence lay, now there was an presence that wasn't supposed to belong. A creeping sense of eldritch awareness. A figure had emerged, tall and shadowy, from the haze, resembling the stranger yet distorted, as if echoes of both past and present intertwined. Its eyes glowed like molten gold, piercing through the darkness and locking onto the scholar's own. You foolish mortals, it drawled, a voice that resonated from the darkness, echoing with an unsettling familiarity. You think truth is a light you can wield, a flame that reveals. You are only drowning in your blindness. Each word was like ice water poured down his spine. The scholar could hardly fathom the magnitude of what they faced. Truth. Power. It all felt heavier, darker, than anything he had ever dared unearth. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, plunging them into strobing flashes, casting wild shadows on the walls, as if the very nature of reality was twisting and reshaping itself. Fear gripped him tightly, the realm between knowledge and terror began to dissolve. Would he be able to stand when the floodgates of history burst open and he was forced to confront the unknown? A woman at the edge of the crowd screamed, breaking the fragile tether of silence. "What do you want from us?" The entity turned, its gaze settling on her, a moment stretched taut with anticipation. "To challenge and evolve. You must choose. Will you seek the truth in terror or cower in ignorance?" The scholar's heart raced. He felt a desperate urge surge through his veins. "We want to understand," he shouted, the clarity of his voice breaking through the chaos. "Tell us." The figure smirked, the expression both unsettling and strangely amusing. "Then prepare for the path you must tread, for it is littered with betrayal, wisdom, and agony." With that, the room seemed to fold in upon itself, an all-consuming vortex swirling with shadows, history, and unnameable horrors. As the crowd began to scream anew, voices lost in madness, the scholar braced himself against the impending darkness. What truth awaited on the other side of this madness? And as the veil closed tighter around them, the final whispered words echoed, "You will never see it coming." What was about to be revealed, and at what cost? The room twisted, an impossible spiral of chaos. Where once they had stood in a historical edifice, now they found themselves suspended in a cosmic void, a swirling nexus of shadows and whispers. The darkness thickened, living and breathing, caressing their skin like ice. The weight of ancient secrets bore down on them, a pressure that made their lungs ache. "Is this real?" a young scholar gasped, grasping the arm of his mentor, wide-eyed and trembling. "It must be," the mentor replied, voice faltering. "But, what does it mean?" The entity loomed larger, its golden eyes narrowing, delighting in their confusion as it stepped forward. It reached out a shadowy hand, and suddenly, images exploded before them, visions of betrayal, grief, despair. They saw figures from history, torn apart by their own truths. "Look!" The echo of its voice vibrated in their minds, ripping apart their understanding. "Each truth you unravel leaves a scar upon the soul. You stand at the precipice of your own history. Will you leap, or will the weight of your ignorance drag you down?" The scholar fought to maintain his footing as the landscape shifted again, a jarring blur of faces torn between triumph and horror. He spotted familiar figures, a group of respected scholars he had idolized, gasping in scenes that flickered like an old film gone haywire. Confessions and veiled truths spilled from their lips, addressing long-buried fears and hidden sins. They crumbled beneath the burden of their own knowledge. "Your mentors are puppets withholding strings," the entity hissed, looming over the trembling audience. "And you? What will you become? Another rascal behind a veil of lies, or the harbinger of revelation?" A voice broke through the chaos, firm and determined. "We will not be afraid," shouted a woman at the forefront, eyes blazing, arm raised defiantly. "We seek the truth, however ugly it may be." The entity's smirk faded, replaced by a glimmer of genuine interest. "Ah, defiance! It breathes life into the stagnant air of history. But understand this, truth can carve flesh as easily as it illuminates souls." The room pulsated with energy, a collective heartbeat synchronized in fear and adrenaline. The young scholar's heart raced faster. This was no mere intellectual exercise, this was life and death. He stepped forward, finding courage amidst chaos. "What do we need to do?" he asked, forcing himself to meet the entity's gaze. "Tell us what you need us to confront." The air thickened around them, vibrating with anticipation. The entity pointed to the swirling vortex, the visions strangling reality with their intensity. "You must confront your own truths, your own failures. One must be the first to step into the abyss." Before anyone could react, the floor cracked open, revealing an abyss swirling with dark energy. The crowd gasped, retreating instinctively. "No!" they cried in unison, fear bubbling over. A sense of panic took them, but the scholar felt it, the call of understanding waiting at the end of the dark path. "It's a trap!" someone shouted, but his voice was drowned out by the growing whispers. The depths beckoned, shadows of unresolved pain reaching out to drag them down. But could there be a chance? Perhaps even in that darkness lay enlightenment, just waiting for the brave to seize it. The scholar's heart thundered in his chest, he could feel his pulse against his fingertips, urging him closer. "Will you take the leap?" the entity teased, its voice now murky, shifting like the thick fog. "The answers dwell within the shadows of your despair." And with that question resonating in the air, everything stopped, the screams, the chaos, the unearthly vision. They stood on the brink, staring into the abyss. Would they succumb to terror, or would they grasp for the knowledge that haunted the edges of their minds? What lurked in that darkness, waiting to be uncovered? And more importantly, who among them would be the first to dive into the unknown? The ground trembled as the void beneath them yawned wider, a ravenous maw hungry for their fears. The atmosphere shifted, heavy with desperation and dread. The whispers grew louder, a shrill chorus of anguish pulling at the edges of their resolve. Shadows danced wildly, weaving in and out of sight, their forms indistinct yet palpably menacing. "Someone has to go," the voice of the determined woman pierced the tension, solid and fierce. Her gaze remained locked on the swirling depths, fear, yet bravery flickering in her features. "We can't turn back now." Her courage served as a spark in the burgeoning darkness, igniting a flicker of hope amidst dread. The crowd shifted, uncertainty rippling through them like a wave. Each face reflected a cacophony of emotions: fear, doubt, anger. They darted glances at one another, grappling with the weight of what was at stake. "Why must it be one of us?" a young man exclaimed, his voice strained. "Can't we face this together? Do you think the abyss is a place for the weak?" The entity crooned, its golden eyes glinting with mischief. "Only the brave may uncover their destiny." A chill washed over the scholar as he felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He had contemplated the unfathomable truths of their existence, but standing here, poised over an abyss, those musings felt trivial. He saw his peers shivering, battling inner demons, fear that smeared the world's shadows across their faces. "What if we all go?" someone else suggested, but the entity shook its head. "No, the first step must be taken alone," it insisted, drawing closer. "Do you dare carry your truth? Do you dare to peel back the layers of your own soul?" The young scholar's breath caught in his throat. Images swirled around him again, details that dug deep into his psyche: the warmth of laughter, the sting of betrayal, moments that made him feel achingly alive. He felt raw, exposed. The vibrant flickers of life danced mocking just out of reach. "I will go," the woman declared, her voice ringing out like a clarion call. The commotion subsided, tension taut as a string ready to snap. Before anyone could protest, she stepped forward. The crowd gasped, and her own face tightened with trepidation. Faced with such unknown darkness, the gravity of her choice loomed larger than life. "Wait!" the scholar shouted, desperation clawing at him. "What if you don't come back?" The entity chuckled, a low rumble filled with malice. "The abyss can either embrace you or consume you whole. Only this woman has chosen willingly. But can she withstand the weight of her truth?" As she hovered on the precipice, a moment of silence followed, thick enough to choke on. Her gaze locked not on the abyss but on the scholar. "I have to do this," she breathed, voice trembling yet resolute. Then, with a shuddering breath, she leaped into the swirling darkness. It swallowed her whole, a sudden snap of silence following her plunge. The group stood frozen, hearts drumming like thunder in their chests, a collective gasp hanging in the air. The shadows continued to swirl, mocking them. Will she find her truth? A soft voice murmured, breaking the paralysis. Or will she be lost? The entity's laughter echoed eerily. Revelations lie ahead, but they are hardly pleasant. Sudden movement caught the scholar's eye as he turned back to the entity, who now hovered over them like a dark cloud. "Now, who among you will heed the call?" The abyss craves more than one seeker. More gasps erupted from the crowd. Panic flared again. Would anyone else dare to fall into that darkness? Or was their fear too great? The abyss awaited. Could anyone summon the courage to venture forward? Or would they remain paralyzed, forever haunted by the truths they dared not uncover? The silence stretched, heavy and charged. The group stood like statues, eyes wide, hearts racing in tandem. The pulse of the abyss echoed their fear, a heartbeat of dread that reverberated through every soul present. Anyone? The entity taunted, its voice a serpent's hiss, sliding through the thrumming tension. What say you? The brave will flourish, while the timid shall wither and fade. You want to change your fates, don't you? A few faces turned white, paralyzed by indecision. The young man who had spoken before, his brow glistening with sweat, shot frantic glances around. What if we lose her? He gasped. What if she is gone forever? Then we must honor her sacrifice, whispered an older woman, tears brimming in her eyes. Her voice trembled with a mix of admiration and sorrow. We can't let her be in vain. Yet, their words hung in the air like dark smoke, choking hope. No one dared to move, each person torn between their instincts of survival and the compelling tug of shared destiny. Then, a murmur from the back of the crowd broke the tension. I'll go. A young man stepped forward, fueled by a reckless surge of bravado. The others gasped, surprised. I can't let her go alone. If she must face her truth, I will face mine. The entity's eyes flared, approving yet amused. A second seeker. Very brave. It floated closer, wrapping around the young man like a shadowy shroud. Do you know what lies ahead? Do you dare unravel the threads of your existence? He hesitated, the weight of the entity's gaze digging into him. If I don't, I'll live in fear of what I might discover, he replied, steadying his voice. I'd rather confront the truth. With a determined nod, he stepped to the edge where the darkness churned. Tension electrified the atmosphere, fear crackled in the air. Together. Someone yelled, voice shaking yet emboldened by the moment. The crowd erupted in murmurs, a swell of encouragement and dread mixing in a chaotic brew. They wanted to stand united, but only a few dared to join him in willingness to face the void. Together. Another echoed, and slowly, a handful had the audacity to tighten their grips and inch towards the abyss. The entity cackled, a chilling sound that sent shivers down spines. Foolishness, my sweet seekers. You believe strength lies in numbers. The abyss whispers only to the lonesome. The young man faltered as he looked back at the group. If we stay here, we may lose our chance to be free of this fear. If something happens, we should always have taken the chance to know the truth. His words resonated in the hearts of a few, but others recoiled, shaking their heads. What if the truth is worse than we ever imagined? Gasped a woman, trembling. Then we face it together, the young man cried, arms open wide. Or apart. Either way, fear will follow us. The call was enticing. Would they all step into the unknown? As the group shifted and murmured, the shadows thrummed sharply, drawing closer, eager to consume the hopes and fears that clung to each figure. Time is slippery, dear ones. The entity hissed, its golden eyes sparkling with intrigue. Who will stay? Who will tread the path into the darkness? The atmosphere pulsed with unresolved tension, anticipation crackling like a summer storm. A shudder of energy flowed through the crowd, doubt wrestling excitement. Would they be brave? Would the truth await beyond the abyss for all, or was it destined to remain a dark whisper only for those who jumped into the depths? The scholar watched, heart pounding, knowing he faced a choice of his own. Would he remain a bystander? Or was his own truth lurking, demanding to be unearthed? As the atmosphere thickened, charged with unresolved potential, it set the stage for the next leap into the unknown. A low hum emanated from the churning abyss, a twisted tune that seemed to draw the brave toward its depths. The young man's heart thudded loudly in his chest, a drumbeat punctuating his resolve. As he stood at the precipice, the swirling shadows clawed at his feet, tempting him further with whispers that promised power, knowledge, perhaps even redemption. Now or never, he muttered to himself, his voice barely piercing through the chant of uncertainty enveloping them. From behind, a firm grip landed on his shoulder. It was the woman, trembling yet resolved. "I'm with you," she said, her eyes flaring bright despite their fear. "If she's down there, we can't let her face whatever that is alone. We owe her that much." He nodded, a flicker of hope sparking inside him as she stepped to his side. Together, they turned to the group, their resolve mirroring one another. "Come on. We can't let fear hold us. Who else will join us?" A moment of stillness ensued, heavy with doubt, until another voice broke through. An older man with scars etched onto his face squinted into the beyond, weighing his choices against the mounting chaos around them. "Fate has toyed with us long enough. I won't let it run my life anymore. Count me in." The crowd exploded into a frenzy of gasps and murmurs, the decision swirling like a storm as more stepped forward, adrenaline overtaking doubt. One by one, they gathered near the edge, the shadows whispering promises of power and truth, deeper than they could have imagined. "Fools, cowards," the entity laughed softly, the sound chilling as it caressed the air, swirling around their ankles like smoke. "You think numbers will protect you? The depths will strip you bare, revealing not just truths but your very souls." The young man met the entity's gaze, his resolve solidifying. "Maybe the truth is that we can't go on this way. We'd rather face our demons than live in a lie." Amid the loud whimpers and murmurs from the crowd, a metallic tension filled the air. It felt as if the abyss responded with a deep rumble, the ground beneath them shifting. The void surged, mystical shadows morphing into shapes that danced in the dark. Figures emerged, lost souls twisted and distorted, their faces a mirror of anguish, faces that looked eerily familiar. "Your fears manifest. See them. Do they not fill your hearts with dread?" The entity hissed, as the ghostly figures reached out, agonized whispers hanging in the darkness. "Can you face the reality? Or will you scatter like leaves in the wind?" The older woman shrieked, stepping back as a figure resembling her long-lost sister cried out for help, a chilling echo that cut through the thrumming atmosphere, reverberating deep within her soul. "No. This can't be real," she cried, anguish tearing through her. "Isn't it?" the entity mocked. "The lies you've told yourself? The truths you've hidden? How can you trust what you see any longer?" A chaotic flare erupted from the rabble, enlightening faces drawn in fear and desperation. Yet, for a few, something more adventurous shimmered in the depths of their eyes, a glimpse of truth they were drawn to, an allure that begged to be explored. As they exchanged looks, testing their fragile resolve amid the chaos, the abyss widened, threatening to swallow not just them, but every ounce of their weary existence. Suddenly, a voice, a new presence from within the shadows pierced through the confusion, clear as day. "Not all is lost," it called. "Not if we choose to look deeper." The crowd turned, eyes wide, but the identity of the voice was obscured by swirling darkness. "Who are you?" the young man shouted. The gaze that shot back from the shadows filled with mystique and danger, laying bare the next set of chilling secrets waiting just beneath the surface. The shadows shifted, swirling like a tempest as the voice from the abyss echoed with an unsettling reminder of hope. The gathered souls strained to discern more, but all they could see was a pair of piercing eyes, brilliant and defiant, gleaming like shards of broken glass against the darkness. "Come forth!" the young man shouted, the certainty of his own voice surprising him. What if this was a trap? What if the entity relished tormenting them further? He clenched his fists, grounding himself against the roiling fear that threatened to consume him. Still, the figure emerged. Slowly, the silhouette formed into a woman with hair that danced like flames. Her features were sharp and compelling, exuding an energy that drew them in. "You're stronger than you know," she reaffirmed, her voice commanding yet gentle, wrapping around them like a warm blanket amidst the chill. But to find her, to know the truth, you must open your hearts and face what lies beneath. What lies beneath? A voice quavered from the fringe, a young man who had been trembling on the edges. What do you mean? Are we not already facing enough? The flame-haired woman nodded, her expression turning serious. The abyss will show you, but you must ask the right questions. It isn't merely a place of fear, it can also reveal truths. If you embrace the darkness, you stand to gain a glimpse of clarity. The energy shifted, tension hung thick and palpable. The entity hissed again, mocking the woman. Foolish truth-seeker, you think they are ready? They are caught in their own chains. She glanced back, her defiance sparking life in the crowd. Chains can be broken. Not if you submit, but if you fight for what you believe in. The young man's heart raced. There it was, the promise they all desired. Freedom. It danced on the edge of their fears, waiting to be seized. But could they really confront the demons that had haunted them for so long? What if we fail? Someone stammered, the terror lacing their words. What if we lose ourselves down there? The abyss thrives on fear. The woman shouted, urgency tinging her sharper edge. Only when you accept who you are, the good and the bad, can you transcend the chains. It is time to make a choice, trust in yourselves, or allow the shadows to consume you. Those words hung in the air, a heavy fog suffocating the murmurs of uncertainty. One by one, the crowd's expressions began to shift. In trembling eyes, defiance ignited. I choose to fight. A wave of affirmations rippled through, dragging fears away like leaves caught in the receding tide. The icy grip of despair softened as others joined in, their affirmations intertwining with determination. Even the older woman, still haunted by her sister's echo, found a spark of strength in the collective unity. The only way is through. She shouted, voices aligning until despair morphed into something fragile yet resilient: hope. That's it. The woman from the shadows reached out, a beacon amid the growing storm. Now, summon your strength. Know that only by facing your memories can you discover her. The abyss moaned in response, almost in anger. Its shadows swirled violently, twisting into darkened faces of past sins and regrets. Every anguished soul reflected their deepest fears like a mirror, taunting them with mockery and despair. Then go. The voice urged. Dive deeper, together. Her image flickered as she gestured toward the gaping maw of shadows. As the first brave heart stepped closer toward the edge, an icy grasp seized the young man's throat, dragging him backward. He stumbled. Panic clawed at him. Could he bring others into this void, or would they never emerge? The abyss pulsed angrily, threatening to swallow them whole even as they stood united. Are you ready to find out what lies beneath? The woman called into the swirling dark. With that, they pondered, even as the abyss twisted and churned below them. What awaited them in the depths? Would it be salvation or destruction? And just as they prepared to leap, an unearthly cry split the air, sending shivers down their spines. No. Wait. If you go down, you may not return. Fear gripped their throats. Tension seeped back into their hearts as uncertainty loomed heavy over their heads. Who had spoken that warning? What lay ahead? The moment hung precariously, a delicate balance of hope and dread, waiting for their next move. Unbeknownst to them, the darkness was only just beginning to stir. The abyss roiled violently, its shadows curling and twisting in the dim light. The air thickened with tension, and the echo of the warning still hung in the space like a ghost. Who was that? Someone whispered, eyes darting nervously. The woman from the shadows, once a beacon of guidance, now hesitated. The truthy who'd never be faced alone, she urged, her voice softening into something echoing compassion. But fear will lead you astray if you let it. The doubts lingered, pulsating through the crowd like heavy fog. They twisted their hearts and doused their bravery in uncertainty. What if it's a trap? Whispered a trembling scholar. What if we lose everything, each other, ourselves? The shadows flickered, as if the abyss reveled in their anxiety. "Then we fight," the brave woman shouted, stepping forward again, her resolve unyielding. "We support one another. We uncover the truth together. Safety lies not in ignorance, but in solidarity." Her voice was a crashing wave against the break of fear, washing over them. Faces turned toward her, uncertainty shifting into reluctant agreement, shimmering like stars peeking through clouds. Together, the young man echoed as he took a firm step, hand extended toward the depths. Around him, others hesitated but began to join him, drawn not by the abyss, but driven by their need for understanding. The lure of clarity beckoned, and as they gathered, a sense of warmth enveloped them. "Who will lead the way?" A tremor of courage sparked amongst them. But it wasn't about leading, it was about journeying together, roots intertwining. They faced the swirling chaos, united now in their desire to embrace the unknown. The shadows writhed, hungry for their fears, yet what lay ahead defined their strength. "Let us leap," someone shouted, and suddenly, hands grasped towards each other like anchors. The group surged forward, hearts thundering, feet steadying on the brink of the abyss. Time slipped away, each moment stretching into eternity, poised like a tightrope walker above uncertain depths. 1-2 The countdown echoed through the air, anticipation crackling with energy. 3. They plunged into the darkness as the ground beneath felt like the world shifting. Starlight flickered within the blackness, strange and surreal, illuminating flashes of wonder and horror. Faces swirled around them, distorted by emotion and memories, but they clung fast to one another, a fusion of courage trembling against the tide of despair. As they navigated through the swirling shadows, voices of the past whispered secrets, revealing layers of buried pain entwined with lessons yet to be learned. "Face them," the brave woman called, her resolve staining the darkness with light. "Our truth is woven in these memories." Their collective discomfort and tears blessed the depths, fueling courage. It felt like pulling threads from a tapestry, painful yet necessary. With each revelation, the shadows dimmed, yielding to a steady glow that swelled within them. They no longer trembled now, they stood dignified, surrounding their shared agony. In that unified moment, understanding surged. Visions morphed, drawing them deep into a glorious awakening. Each soul glimmered, revealing long-hidden truths and redemption intertwined, remnants of love, loss, and the powerful lessons of forgiveness emerged. They saw the intricate web of existence, balance woven through light and darkness, and their burdens began to lift. Hope flickered, illuminating the once terrifying abyss. The brave woman gazed into the hearts of her companions, where shadows had danced only moments ago. "Together, we rewrite our story," she cried, and now they truly believed it. The weight of the uncertainty faded, their fears matching the pulse of solidarity resounding against the void. Suddenly, a brilliant light enveloped them, breaking the grip of the shadows as it surged through their chests and illuminated the space. The abyss trembled, feeling the ancestral wisdom reclaiming its realm, a power the darkness couldn't grasp. Together they had confronted what lay within, owning and accepting it, defying the demons that twisted the truth. As luminous forms of hope emerged, spiraling like shimmering comets. "You have triumphed," the flame-haired woman declared, now standing alongside them. "You've chosen enlightenment over fear." With that, the shadows dissipated, lifting them into a realm where wisdom blossomed. They emerged back into the original space of the church, transformed, hearts alight with new understanding. The doors once again swung wide, inviting them to share their journey and newfound knowledge with the waiting world. Beneath the surface of their confrontation, they glimpsed a brighter path, the promise of transformation and the power of collective truth. Stepping out of the dark, they interlinked, hearts still pounding yet now filled with possibility. Together, the young man echoed memories of fear now faded. "Let us ensure the world hears of this. The truth should never be buried again." And as they stepped out into the daylight, renewed purpose illuminated each face, indelibly united in their quest. They understood that the real journey was just beginning. The truths they had dredged from the darkness would resonate far and wide. "Let us take it further." The brave woman urged, eyes glistening with determination. Show the world what truth can do. As they burst through the doors into sunlight, whispers of their journey left an indelible mark, reverberating throughout the ages. Now, the story of their triumph was just beginning. Remember, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and let your voice echo by flooding the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to be a part of our amazing community, where every voice matters. Join us, let us continue this journey together.